Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our favorite Wealth Edit Wednesday, when we get to feature the wonderfully well-known Helen Owen. We were just saying that we were reviewing our analytics to our podcast, and she far and away stole the show.
Yeah.
She's our most listened to podcast, and that's because you are and do an amazing job of telling us the truth and how to apply it practically to our everyday life, which is something that we all long for, because we can learn all this financial information and the technicalities of things, but really what it all comes down to, and Lauren and I say this all the time, is our spending habits and how we choose to use our money. So Helen, thank you so much for being willing to come on time and time again. And we are excited to hear your wisdom today.
We're going to sit at your feet, and you're going to tell us some case studies today, right?
Yeah. Well, I think from here on, every week I might refer to one of the study. I mean, I've been kicking people around the block for 11 years now. I got lots of different, of course, obviously no names, but I think that talking about certain people's issues and what happened can sort of help other people relate. Mm-hmm. And that is a segue into, when we put a date on this, I start thinking and writing notes, even though my children are dying for me to write a book. And I keep saying, problem is I'm not a writer. There's a disconnect there, people. But I thought so much about what I wanted to say this time. And really, the title, I had two titles. One was Coming Out of COVID, which was very PC. And the other is, you can't make anyone buy a tuna sandwich. Okay. Now that is my second favorite phrase after, if you got 10 cents, you can only spend 9. Really, you can't make anybody buy a tuna sandwich. It's going on my gravestone. Everybody I know knows it. They'll see me and go, tuna sandwich. It's the truth, if you think about it. So, but who can you make buy a tuna sandwich? You can change you. You can't make your child buy a tuna sandwich. If you buy it for them and they don't want it, it's going in the trash. Good. So here's my point. Over COVID, over this last year, Milner, my daughter in Nashville, said, you could open up with, is your wallet fatter and is your wallet skinnier and your body's fatter? I said, well, I don't really want to do that. Because she said the internet shopping has been something she's seen a bunch of her friends. But anyway, the point of the whole thing is I would like everybody to take inventory. We're moving out of this strange time. And there's some things that really people have learned, and there's some things that people have done poorly. So you can change your behavior. I've said it every time I've talked to you. So behavior, it can be bad or good. The great news is you can change it. So every day that you say, it's kind of like, I keep saying I'm going to lose 5 pounds. So I'll say it, and then some days I'll do better than others. But the next day I wake up with a new plan, a new resolve to do it well. So that's what I look at with somebody who's got to get their spending, their budgets, their life. I'm not just about the budget is on this podcast as I am. I think I've become you're going to kick your rear around the block consultant. That's what I am, because it's nuts and bolts. I mean, back to the budget sheets I sent out before. And if somebody new on the podcast needs them, y'all got them.
We've got them. They're in our worksheet section. I'm 99% sure. If they're not, we'll pop them on there. But I'm pretty sure.
The yearly, the long range, and then the monthly. But basically, you only get to spend what's coming in. And during COVID, I think people have, I had one friend, I've asked a bunch of friends because I asked their opinions. I've had one friend who said, it's been good for me because I like to go out and look and touch things, and I haven't bought as much. Then I have this other group, my lunch group that is all completely, totally wealthy. They're just online. They're just ordering anything they want, packages every day. The key there is they can afford it. So they can order a Rolls Royce and it doesn't matter because it shows up at their house. They're like, oh yeah, write it out of my checking. But for the rest of the world, that may not be true. So you've got to take an inventory of what are you doing and what are we going to do going forward? And what can you do for somebody else? That's something else I've noticed, that we've become real focused in. And now you've got to turn around and focus out. Get your life straight, get your budget straight, work on your relationships. Because I promise you, in the end, ain't nobody gonna say, gosh, I wish I had studied my budget book more. They're gonna say, well, who are your friends and who have you got and what are you doing with your life? And having yourself free money-wise is part of it, which leads me into my case study. So I told y'all I've had I'd say 90% of the people who have called me or come to this house have left better. They've had a better view of what they were doing, what they needed to do to get out of debt, blah, blah. But about 2 months ago, I had a call from a woman, and it's the first time in 11 years that after a 2-hour talk with her, my eyes, if I'd been on camera, I would have had to put something over my head like a pillowcase, because as she was talking, I was going, oh, she had 15 credit cards. If this resonates with you out there in money land, then you need to get some help. She had 15 credit cards that were maxed to the hilt. I didn't even know you could get 15 credit cards, because that's just not the way I think. She had no income. She was older. She's made every bad decision that I kept saying, well, tell me the positives. No, there was no positive. She owns a little house somewhere. She might make $10,000 if she sold it. Believe me, she is in so much trouble over $10,000. It's scary. And I mean, I kept saying, well, how many more credit cards? And we were like on number 12. And she was going, well, I have a few more. And it was like $10,000 more on a credit card, 8,000 more. As she was going, y'all, I'm not kidding. See my hand. I was going, oh, okay. Well, so after talking to her, I realized, and I say this in with real respect, I know what I'm talking about, but I am not a tax accountant and I'm not a lawyer. And that's what she needed. So I said, let's hang up. Let me think about this. And I called her back. She said, oh, you're one of those people that gets it done, right? And I said, yeah, let's talk about the word grit that I've talked about with y'all before, because that's what it takes. And I said, sister, you're going to have some grit. You're going to have to find, I've got some names of people for you to call who are going to do this pro bono, which I am. But I said, you're in some deep trouble, and your life is, I said, so explain to me why you were out there just, randomly spending. And she said, I have a gap in my soul. And for whatever you believe, or I call it a God hole. Other people call it a gap in your soul, but I think you get the picture. And humans fill that with whatever, there are all kinds of addictions. But a spending like this is an addiction. And she was just filling that hole in her soul with, I hate to say it. I said, can we have a garage sale here? And y'all, the stuff she had bought was not sellable. It was like, I don't know, junk to put in your kitchen or something. I don't know. It was just, I couldn't get over how far down the rabbit trail she was before she asked for help. So my point in that is, I have sent her to a couple of places, and I'm actually going to call and check on her today. I've sort of put that off because I'm worried that she didn't do it. And if she didn't do it, I'm going to have to go find her where she lives and beat her up. But my point in all of that is, you got to stop now. You've got to take inventory now. And like I've said, so if you want to go out and buy a bunch of junk for your kitchen, that's fine with me if you have saved it in that coffee can. And if you want to take that money out because it was called miscellaneous and you saved it, you can flat take it out and put a match to it. I don't care. But that's where it is. It's not, you don't get to spend that if it's not in your coffee can. So that's my latest. Well, and I hate that I told y'all that because I failed. I hope that me getting her to the right person was the success in that, but wow, it was bad. So I'm saying, please stop.
It goes back to your tuna salad analogy or tuna sandwich, because really with anything like this, anything that we're filling our lives with because we feel unfulfilled. Sometimes it's food, alcohol, whatever it might be, money, spending. Emily and I were talking last week about, she said, there's a difference between a spender and a shopper. And I'm a little bit more of a spender than a shopper. Your friend who wanted to go and touch and look, and she's more of a shopper. So that's a different kind of thing. But I really think, the good news is you can stop. Like I was talking to my dentist and she's like, I'm not drinking wine for a year. I'm like, you know what? That's a fabulous idea. I'm not going to do it either. And, it's just like, you just wake up the next day and you don't have a glass of wine. And it just is so, it sounds so simple because it is in some ways. You can just decide, you know what? I've been spending for the last 10 months. I'm just going to stop. And like, you can do it. That it's just,
I'm going to stop.
Yeah.
You hope you're not in a hole, but let me say this to everybody out there. Everybody gets in a hole at some point or the other, with whatever. With what you're doing with your children, which, that's another one of my stand on the soapbox events, is what people are doing with their children. So you may have overspent on behalf of them, which is really not on behalf of them. It's really filling it with you. But everybody gets into a hole at some point about something. And the people who live well and are successful have what I refer to all the time as grit. It's looking inside and going, well, by darn, I have done this. I've got to pull it up from inside. I got to be a go-getter. I got to go do this. And then if you can't do it, call me. You can't do it, call a friend who's great with money. Get some help. It is doable, but in the end, you have to do it. That's the whole point of this. COVID has sort of put us into a place where one of my friends said, well, for her being away from the quote madding crowd has been a good thing. But then she said, but then I started looking around going, I'm lonely. That's a bad thing. Or I've had people say, I've looked at my house so much because I've been in it, and I keep trying to change something in it, and it's not filling up the hurt or whatever you have. Because it doesn't. So I think what I want to mostly say is I want everybody to get a plan. The spring is here. It's beautiful.
Beautiful.
Get a plan.
Yeah. And no one on this call is too old for a do-over, because I don't believe there is too old for a do-over. You can really make a change that is very significant very quickly. Now, Helen, you did say you wanted some live Q&A, and we've got questions rolling in. You want to pivot to these questions?
Yeah, I love a question.
Okay. So the first one was, Nan asked, speaking of credit cards, do you have a suggestion on how many credit cards is good to have?
Yes, I do. Well, first of all, because I believe in all the stuff that you get back from credit cards, I have one credit card that I use all the time for as much stuff as I can think of. And then I have an emergency credit card in case I lost that. 2, that's it. And I only spend on 1. But the codicil is I don't spend on that credit card unless I have recorded what I spent. And I'm talking every day. I'll look at my husband. What'd you spend today? Where's your receipt? What did I spend? Every day. That's called grit and discipline. I write it down, and I take from my general money and I put it into a quote coffee can, so that when the bill comes in, I'm not surprised. I have the money. That's what I'm talking about. 2 credit cards. 1 you use all the time, so you get all that money back, but you got to pay it off. And if you're not paying it off, if you're doing the minimum, I promise you, what's another one of my favorite sayings is debt is a killer of wealth. You please get some help to get out of having debt on credit cards. It is a dead end street. And honestly, there is help out there for it.
There is. And I'm actually talking in Instagram stories, if you follow us on the Wealth Edit today, about why people, because I think sometimes it's mystifying. Like you hear, why shouldn't I have a credit card? Or like, why does everyone who seems to know anything about money hate them? And we really don't. I'm like Helen. I mean, we have one we use, but we have one. But like the spread, the amount the bank or the credit card company makes on you, if you leave a balance on there, is obscene. And like the worse your credit is, the higher that spread is. The difference between what the actual rate that they're lending the money to you for and what they're charging you, the bigger that is, the worse you should, like, how do I say this? Like the
bigger the punishment.
Yeah, you just shouldn't use that. And so that's why we talk a lot about credit cards. And yeah, I mean, if you pay it off every month, great. Like it's a good tool to have. Andrew has one, that's my husband for his work. I have one for my work. Then we have one as a joint couple. Like that's just how we do things. Now, when Helen first saw us, it was like, we didn't know which account to put what, and it was all going into a joint account. It was so confusing, but she straightened us right out, which was so fun. But yeah, I mean, it's important to
and let me tell you, do y'all remember at Christmas time when I said, listen, the guy at the mall that's playing the piano when you're walking around, he's not in there for you to have a good time. You don't really think that the stores in the mall or the people on the internet or the credit card companies, they don't really want you to have a big time. They want you to spend and be in debt to them because they make a lot of money on those interest charges. So that's another thing. Please get a plan to get out of debt and and also, I mean this, if you can't do it, if you can't discipline yourself and find the grit, cut them up and get with somebody to make a plan to pay it off, because debt is killing your wealth. Mm-hmm. Is that hard enough? Kick around the block? Or
no, like that. I think it's great. And I think it kind of brings back to a good point. It's like also just having that accountability partner. If it's Helen, if it's anybody, if it's a friend, if it's a parent, if it's your children.
Use the community on the wall credit. Say, hey, I'm trying to get out of credit card debt. Who's willing to help me out? Yeah. I promise there will be hands that will be raised. It'll be Emily.
Listen, I'm free, which you get what you pay for, but I'm free and I'm happy to help anyone. It's kind of it really is my mission in life. I mean, it's so funny how this happened 11 years ago when people started coming to me because they knew I was good with money. Well, look around. If you live in Tucson, who do you know that's good with money? Ask them, what are they doing? It's not hard.
No, and it's not. It's just coming up with a plan and sticking to it. And anyway, it is so true. All right, here's another question kind of along the same lines. Any suggestions on canceling credit cards? I've heard that canceling cards can hurt your credit score, but I truly have no idea if that is true or not. Not well versed on that. But if I have always paid my credit card on time, is it okay to cancel some cards just to simplify things?
Okay, I just canceled a credit card, and that's a great question because different companies, see, they're going to throw in that. My son, who's an attorney, is like, does anyone ever read the fine print anyway, or no? So I called. You do? Oh, Emily, I knew you would. I knew you would.
Like, why are y'all not reading? She's an attorney.
You're so smart. You're not just a pretty face.
So smart.
So I called the credit card company before I canceled it, and they were like, "Oh, please don't cancel it." And I said, "No, I'm looking for something. I was going to Italy, and I wanted no transaction fees." And I said, "Y'all don't do that, do you?" "No, we don't." So I said, "Well, that's why I got to cancel. Is there a penalty?" No, there wasn't on that card. But that's a great question. All it takes is calling customer service and ask them, and then have the guts, even though they're saying, "But we love you," to say,
they don't love you.
We love you and we want you to spend some more money with our company. But no, I just think you call.
Just talking to a client about that, and she was so concerned about calling and canceling things because she said, "Well, what do you say?" And I said, "You say, I've gone through a divorce and I need to close this account." That's all you say.
Yeah, that's what you say.
Like, "Oh, no, they're going to try to get me." I was like, no, I said, just shut it down. I said, there's not many silver linings here, but if you say that, they'll just be quiet and they'll do what they need to do.
And to directly answer that question too, it won't hurt. It will not hurt your credit. It won't. I mean, you don't want to have a card, especially in your case where it's like you're paying it off every month. What they're really looking for is how much credit can we give this person overall? That's what the credit scoring companies, rating companies are looking for. And how much do they have on a balance? So like,
Right.
you know, that's
what's off.
The ratio.
That's right. But the biggest thing is, do you pay your credit cards off on time? Like that is the numero uno thing that makes up your credit score. It just does. Do you pay your payments on time? If you're doing that, then like the rest of the stuff will just fall into place. I've never really worried about that. You know, I, especially when I was like starting to get all this stuff in order, I just said, you know, it's just temporary. I just want simplicity. It was just so much easier for me to have just one. Because there's all sorts of types of credit, right? It's like how much you own on your home, how much you know, home equity lines, if you have something like that, personal lines of credit. I mean, there's all sorts of things that make up how they're looking at your credit.
You know what? I read an article. Of course, I'm a huge nerd about reading about people's budgets, financial, great investments, all that. And I just read an article yesterday about a couple that got married, and they both had, you know, their own stuff. They were older, and they had credit cards and all that. And they found out that together they had some significant credit card debt. And there are two ways to go about it. And you have to figure out which way is going to make you do better, which was the wife wanted to pay off the little ones first because she felt satisfaction in that. The husband said, no, let's get the big one, because once it's gone, the others will be so much easier. I sort of go with him, but I see the value of getting rid of the smaller ones. So it's like a ladder. You're going to start at the top and come down. But the goal is the same, is to just start. Which one do I need to get rid of? And how can I do this? I'm paying $30 a month and I owe $2,000. Mm-hmm. I've got to get my life. It's like the friend of Rhett's who came to me right after college. And I said, the good news is you can pay your bills. The bad news is you got $20 for the month. And she said, okay, well, thank you, Miss Owens. That was great. I told y'all this. I ran into her in the village. I said, how's it going? She went, oh, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. I went, oh, okay, well, that's good news. I feel great about you. And so, you know what she did? She married somebody very wealthy. Good for her. That was just so, I'm telling y'all that kind of stuff because, come on, come to the plate. Let's go. Wake up, get it together.
But money is fleeting, right? Like that woman, she could get divorced. He could leave her nothing, you know, like it's just, but wealth habits are forever. They really are. So where money can come and go, the habits that you build around wealth, those really, once you hit some good ones, they're forever. You'll be forever changed. So
I hope you heard the facetiousness in my voice when I said, oh, super. So you married a wealthy man. She actually said that. I went, oh, okay. Well, that fixed a lot. Gotta go. Anyway. Okay,
Helen, this is good. This is your wheelhouse because you straightened me right out here. What type of account structure do you guys recommend for married couples? 9 years in, and we still have accounts all over the place.
Okay, so this is Helen Owen's opinion, and you can take it. It's worth what I charge, as I've told y'all. But when I've never had Dickie, my husband, is on, his name is on my checking account. Then we have a money market checking account. Both our names are on it. And then he has a business checking account, and all of them are separate. And we have rules with each other of who can write on those. So I'm writing on the money market and the joint checking account because I run everything around here. When I go to the graveyard with the tuna sandwich thing, Dickie's gonna be going, what do we do? Who do we do? He's, you know, typical. I'm not proud of that, but I'm trying to work with him here. But we don't commingle because how do you know what somebody else is doing? You don't. And the credit card, you know, we talk about it. I'll go, well, what'd you spend today? Let me write that down. If you don't you cannot both be pulling off the same account unless you're really, really in tune with finding out what's been spent. And then that goes into personal, like, well, you're stepping on my toes because you didn't like that I bought a new gun or whatever it is. My point is, and in my budget, there's a big place for miscellaneous money. And everybody needs that so that you can go out and burn it in the backyard if you want to. But I hope you heard me say, joint accounts are not a great idea, in my opinion. Now, I think you should be on each other's accounts in case you need to write that or something. But commingling money is hard.
Mm-hmm.
That's a short, simple answer to that. But I could get into more depth about who writes on what and who does what. But basically, like Lauren, we talked about, if you have a business account, it should have nothing to do with checks being written for a child's camp.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, Helen, so what about when you're also adding, because we had another thing that somebody asked, would you teach a course for our children, which I totally agree with. One of the things that I'm running into right now is a child who, I have a 14-year-old and a 16-year-old, and both of them now have their own bank accounts with their own debit card in an effort to get them
Great.
through budgeting and to help me not give out $20 bills every time they have to go somewhere, because now they're more thoughtful about what they spend. But how do you handle that? How did y'all think through how much to give them, and then what do you like? Did they have just a checking and a savings?
Well, my big thing is, it's really hard to make a dollar out there. And I don't care if you're a trust fund baby, you need to have a focus on your life. And most of the time that's a career. So if your parents, my big thing was, if I'm going to give you money, you live in this house and there are things you're going to do to earn that money. So I did give my children allowances, and I thought they were very generous, and they have told me they were generous. But once it was gone, you weren't getting any more, unless I could come up with a lot of jobs. So I'd say, well, you want to earn $10? Okay. But we taught them, if you're out of money and your friends are going to La Paz or to the Mexican restaurant or whatever, what you do is you say, hey guys, I'm going to be doing something at home, but I'll meet y'all for dessert. There are all kinds of things. And you don't know how much I'd love to kick a bunch of children around the block, especially the girls that have to have the Jimmy Choo shoes in junior high. I just want to start crying when I hear that, because life is going to be tough. I've said this before. What if you marry a missionary and you move to Japan and you have done your children a disservice. Emily, I'm proud of you though, because you're a single mom and you have set up accounts for them, and I hope you're sticking to it. Like
she does.
Okay.
I have all my kids on my green light. You should have heard the conversation with Lily this morning. She said, can we go to Starbucks after school today? I said, yeah. We checked her account. She had enough money. She goes, oh, can you just put another like $40 on, because I've got to go to dinner and sugar after dance club or whatever it is. What's it called? Ballroom. I was like, honey, you are not spending $50 a day just on any day. Like, it's just not going to be, that's just not it for you. And she goes, what am I spending? I said, I guess when you go to sugar, spend $2. I mean, you got $20 in your account. Make it work. Stretch it.
Make it work. Oh, thank you, Lauren. Make it work.
I mean, well, and mine, I had my credit card. Y'all don't tell anybody I'm telling y'all this. It's very
private. Oh, okay. It's a secret.
But
secret. We're going to only put it on our national podcast.
I gave her my credit card. She did not come by it. Like, she didn't take it out of my purse. I actually gave it to her to use when I was out of town for a couple of days, and she just kept it. And her debit card got frozen because she likes to buy things off Instagram from China, which the banker is complete to tell her, you cannot make international purchases with your debit card, Mary Jane. Anyhow, it gets frozen. So she just uses my credit card. That's my backup, like yours, Helen. It's one I never use, but it's in there for emergencies. Well, I got the bill.
Oh, I hate to think, boy, I'd have some things to say.
Beyond anything, it was $700.
of like Chick-fil-A.
of Chick-fil-A.
Do you know that I have a
Not want
friend?
Jimmy Choo's. She was buying ices in Chick-fil-A.
It would have almost been easier if she was buying Jimmy
Had
Choo's.
bought some Jimmy Choo shoes. You know what? I have a friend who growing up did the same thing. Took her mother's credit card, $700. Guess what her mother did? Was a lawyer. Mother was a lawyer. Took her to the state penitentiary.
No.
Called the warden and said, you owe me a favor. I'm bringing my child. Can you give her and didn't tell my friend, and they're riding in the gates of the state women's penitentiary. And she goes, Mother, what are we doing? She said, I think it's time for you to spend a day with some people who have stolen some money. Now, that may be harsh. She spent the day. She went to the laundry. She went to the, she said how great was that of her mother?
Yeah.
And then she said she could hear the doors going, and she was like, I'm in here. Because honestly, it's not theft, but it's an abuse of money and power. So I hope you use that, buddy. You pray that you are given chances to lecture.
Oh,
Boy,
yeah.
I hope you lectured.
Well, when I pulled it out and I showed her, I mean, she cried. She really, honestly had no idea. You know, they don't understand that concept. It's almost like if your child is overspending, like kind of give them some free rein and then just hit them with the sledgehammer.
Right.
They don't get it. She did get that concept, like, wow.
Yeah.
But
Well, great.
a job, she's there right now, and is having to pay me back.
You know what? You pray that you have opportunities to teach before they leave you, because I'm so sad about today's world, because people are just giving, and none of the teaching's going along with it. Emily, that was a gift. That right there was a gift, because you did the right thing with it. Instead of just, well, I know you didn't mean to. No, that's a gift. You got to teach.
She's realizing how crippling debt is, because now not only is she's working and she's having to give it to me, and she's only getting to keep a small portion, so she can't,
It's not fun.
and you realize
She has learned the lesson.
She could make more work just babysitting for me. I'd take her.
Yeah,
out of that in no time.
Y'all go visit her at Smoothie King in Liberty Park.
Yeah, you can go visit her there. All right, buy lots of smoothies. She'll get paid the same. All right, so here, I'm gonna show you how we structure our accounts, and it's gonna be hard to see, but I'll put it somehow on the Wealth Edit. We'll make this fancy and pretty. But I don't know if you can see this, but we start out with a joint account monthly. Those are our monthly expenses. So I just pay all those, or Andrew does, but like we know that like all of our normal monthly expenses are going to come out of that. From that,
and it's a checking account, right? Your joint monthly money goes into a checking account.
That's exactly right. And then there's other checking accounts. So there's his and hers, miscellaneous, what we need to spend if we want to like buy each other a present, or I want to buy a present for myself, or whatever it is. Then I flipped these, but there's annual expenses too. So like taxes, I put kids camp in there because I know I'm gonna want to spend that. So dividing it out over 12 months is just easier to do.
Vacation,
whatever it is. So you got that, and then you've got your joint savings. So it's like we fill these buckets, and so then when those things come up, you're not surprised by them. And then even down here, we have like a goal account, whatever that might be. That might be kids' weddings. It might be a big vacation. It might be, I don't know, a renovation project that you have. We're talking about renovations right now in the Wealth Edit. The best way to pay for renovation is cash. So, you know, all of those kinds of things, that's how we structure it. So I'll put this on the membership site later. They are all at the same institution, Becky, except for one, and it's our like Ally savings account, because they have the best just like general camp out rate for savings. And for me, it works better to it's more painful for me to have to make a transfer in or out if it's at a different institution. So I like to do that to myself, just give myself.
But it's separate. What you just said is on my budget sheets that are in there. What you just said, and I think weddings down the road. So here's the sad thing. Somebody in your audience is going, really, Lauren, I can't save for a vacation or a gift for myself. I'm in trouble. Those are the people that I think I'm talking to. Make a plan. Call Lauren, call me. and
But here's
start
what,
at the
what did we
beginning.
decide? It was like 60, hold on, I have this number, but 25,000 a year. If you want to spend 25,000 a year or save 68.50 a day. Now I know y'all blow 68.50 a day because I've blown 68.50 a day. It's not that deep. You don't think it's one dinner out at like any place you would go with your family. I'm telling you, it's real easy. And so when you think about that as fluff, I have a great friend who is a fabulous cook. And we were talking about their finances and their cash flow because it's a little bit choppy. Like they get more sometimes and less sometimes.
Oh, that's hard.
I said, how are you only spending this much? They live here in Mount Brook with the rest of us. I said, how are you only spending this much? Do you know what their key is? They never go out to dinner. Like she cooks dinner every night and loves it. I mean, that wouldn't be me because I hate cooking, but
that would kill me. Let me just say that. That would not be my.
If you're a fabulous cook, then don't go out to dinner because like it's better at home. I mean, I would much rather eat at her place any night of the week, twice on Sundays, because it's way better than anything I could get. But my point is, like, that is how that's their little sneaky workaround. That's $25,000 a year, easily. Yeah.
So you got to find what works for you. Like I'm the queen of no institution is going to beat Helen Owens. It's not happening. Yeah. I'm going to find a way to get what I want with the brand I want cheaper, or let me say the cheapest way I can get it. I'm going to price check. I'm going to find it. That's my thing. It's like a treasure hunt. The cooking, no, that would not be me. So that's the point. You got to do what fits you.
Yeah. Right. All right. Well, this has been really time well spent. As always, you're our favorite person to say.
You're great. I'd love to do a children's, seriously. I hadn't thought I'd love to do that with parents, and then even some with some children, a shorter one, because it is not happening in our country. It's not.
Well, that was what I keep telling this story, but it was I would read my daughter's text, and one of her little friends said, why are we learning about sedentary rock? When am I going to learn how to pay a mortgage? How am I going to know when to get a credit card? And they're asking these questions on text. And I was thinking they want to know. Nobody teaches them. And so we're going to teach them. Slowly.
I'm ready. And I will kick them around the block too.
Yep. It's going to be good. You can start with Lily.
Perfect. Put her on.
I think Mary Jane takes priority.
No, well, you've done a great job with Mary Jane. Hear me. I mean, you didn't take her to the women's prison, which I thought was inspirational, but you're teaching her. And John Kroll, famous book, the author, said, you only got this much time. The suitcase is closing. You're 16, you got this much left in the suitcase. You better cram it in there, because when they leave, they're gone. And either you've taught them or you haven't. And I think, now Rap might say I didn't teach him well enough, but Milner got it. So there you go.
We had a wayward teenager living in our house. This is a story for another time, maybe a year from now when I'm drinking some wine again. But we had this wayward teenager living. And so I called the mom of the teenager was wayward. So of course in my house, it's hard to change your stripes. And so she was in, so I called the mama, hey, so-and-so did this. I need you to come on down here. And she goes, I mean, what would you do? I mean, she's almost 18. I said, almost. She is not 18. She is not done here. We're not done. You're not done because they're halfway through senior year. You got to go the distance.
How smart would it be if you started when they were 2?
Yeah.
That's my point. Start when they're 2. And I'll tell you how. That's a teaser for next time. And I'll tell you how.
Okay. All right, we'll end with this one last comment. I think this is great from Catherine.
Thank you.
You always have good thoughts. Okay, so it says, this week my husband also reminded me that before my son understands how long his money lasts and can be used, we have to teach him how to count his cash, lay it in a wallet, decide what to pull out at the register instead of a wad, and talk to the cashier, all those little things. No one is teaching this.
Yep.
Yeah.
So good.
It's all got to be taught. No, and everybody's left the theater. I don't know. I'm like a lone voice in the woods with y'all. Okay.
Maybe someone will listen. Someone will. That's eventually. Right. All right.
Well, y'all call me and let me know when my next time is. I'm gonna be working on a real kick the can around the block on children. That's gonna be my next.
We're excited.
We can't wait.
All right.
Thanks,
Well, I
Helen.
love y'all. Y'all are
See you.
great.
Bye.
Bye.